right, welcome to Weller Informed. I am your host, Evan. I'm here with Ryan. And that's right,
Hello.
Ryan. We're just jumping right into it. Yeah, can you hear me? You good?
I can.
All right. First off, it's been way too long. I'm so excited to catch up with you. Let's just jump right into it. So, it's been a couple of years, I think, since we really had a chance to catch up. How have you been spending your time? What are you up to these days?
Yes, I've been spending my time like everyone, doing a little bit of work, doing a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Glad basketball's
So
back on.
Yep. So are you consulting now? What are you doing for work?
Yeah, I do some consulting. It is what it is. It's fun.
And then I think you said, are you also writing an opera?
Yeah, I'm finishing up. Hope to be done in the next few weeks, which is maybe a ambitious goal, but also I think pretty realistic. So finishing up like a chamber opera. So one singer, lyric baritone in the small orchestra. And it's also working on trying to get find the right singer, the right fit to put together a premiere.
All right. So when you wrote the opera, how is it like a 3-act structure? I mean, I'm not even that familiar with
so this is like a 1-act. Yes, this is like a 1-act chamber opera. And so it's focused on just one character. There's literally only one singer. And it's about 45 minutes long. And the whole point is that's like the right amount of time to get the ideas across, and probably the right amount of time to really just focus in on one person's point of view. If you go any longer, it's probably a little too much. And if you don't go long enough, then, the whole effect is not going to be there.
Yeah. So can you tell us about the opera? I mean, what is the theme? What is the point of view? Do you have like a thesis for it, or what is the idea? Like what they're trying to convey?
Yeah, I want to keep a little bit, keep it a little bit quiet, but the broad theme is where we're exploring the American psyche through one person's perspective, and it's using kind of their own words. It's a historical person. They are no longer with us, but it's
a historical figure, like a well-known historical figure.
Everyone will know who this person is. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. So did you have to do research then for this? Yeah,
I did some research, pulled together the different pieces and tried to make it a coherent 45 minutes. That's the vast majority of which, in terms of like the text, is like things they said or they wrote. So it's not trying to layer on analysis, like outside perspective. It's trying to like force the audience to basically sit with this person for 45 minutes.
Okay. And so do you have an actor yet, or do you have, is it casted, or are you working casting? How does that work?
That's the exciting part. Yes. Trying to find the right person. And so having some conversations, and the real key is like energy. It's like, what kind of energy can they bring? Like vocal quality, range, all that stuff's, important, but that'll be solved for. I think there's a lot of singers. It has to be the type of singing actor, like who really is going to sell and build this like characterization that's focused entirely around what they're doing for some amount of time, which is tough. And you get that in like a few. So there's on the classical side, you get that in like song cycles, art song. You actually rarely get it operatically, because most of the time operas are built around on duets and ensembles and things like that, where it's multiple characters interacting. It's often not just like long monologues. So it's fun.
And then, so when you have one character, is it all song, or is it dialogue, or I should say like monologue as well as song? Or do you go back and forth, or is it just one basic, like, is it music the entire time? Maybe
it's music the entire time. Now it's technically, so it's like through composed. So, but there are going to be slight pauses, but not pauses for dialogue. You can think of it as like little scenes, little movements.
Got it.
So it's not nonstop music, wall to wall, but the pause is just to, maybe someone's going to turn a page.
Okay.
To slightly reset the feeling. Time's going to maybe advance, things like that.
Okay.
And it's mostly, the vast majority is sung. There's a little bit of spoken interjections, details, but that's not meant to be like expository, really. There's a little bit. It's mostly sung, though it's also, this is super specific. I'd say it's not song. They're not songs, which is
okay.
You probably wouldn't flip on most radio stations and hear this. They're not songs.
Okay. Is it rap?
It's not rap.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not songs. Oh, I was just wondering if this was like a Hamilton, if this was
that would be pretty out of character. I don't think I could convincingly pull that off. Maybe with like a collaboration in the future, there could be someone who can convincingly do that. But
so not songs. Okay, I'm pretty interested to you've got me very intrigued. So what do you have in mind? Is this going to be performed like for live shows, or are you going to record? Is this going to be like an online format? Have you given any thought to how it's actually going to be produced?
It's going to be best. I think it's going to be best experience in a live setting, with people there, and so working towards that. So right now I'm in Denver.
Right. Okay.
And so if I can find the right people in Denver, or if I basically find the right singer in Denver, we'll do it here. If I can't find the right singer in Denver, then it will not happen here. Then it will likely happen in San Francisco or New York. Okay.
So are you living in, we can, a little bit of an aside, but are you in Denver or San Francisco now, or both? Are you, because you've been living in both?
Yeah. I've lived between Colorado and San Francisco for a while. I don't know. 12 years. Okay. What year is it? 2025.
I know.
8 years. So I think since 2016, I've kind of, though I guess I was in Colorado before then. Yeah. Just a while. I don't know. So right now I'm in Denver.
Okay. You are in Denver. Yeah.
But I only moved back here a few months ago. I was in San Francisco for a bit. Okay. San Francisco, weird though. It's a very different vibe than it was.
Is it pre-COVID?
Definitely different than pre-COVID. Also, just the AI. The AI scene is very different than the startup scene used to be, or like not even beyond startups, like the way the established like technology companies operated and hired, and just like the vibe is very different. So it felt time to take a break.
And you bring up AI, so I do need to. I need to. If there's anyone I need to talk to about AI, it's you. And I don't think we've really caught up since sort of the Chat GPT came onto the scene. So maybe just first, I don't know. You just want to give me your general thoughts on like where you are, like how involved are you? I think you at one point weren't you working with AI to teach AI music?
I feel like I've done different things in and around AI. So back, I think this was 2018, 2019. Yep. And this is going back to kind of how the vibe was like very different. I think there's like much more experimentation around like what could you do with machines, with computers, and and human language and human art. So visual art, music. And it was very much like the pre-monetization phase that we're apparently in now, which is just like, how do you burn everything down and make money doing it? Back then it was much more like open research, right? And so everyone who was working the area, even if they worked for companies like NVIDIA or Google, right, was basically publishing what they were doing. And it wasn't research that was specifically being done to then, ship into a product and like put that in people's hands in the next 5 minutes. It was around like, so there was a big Google project at the time called the Magenta Project. And they were focused on literally the question of, and can machines create art? And if not, why? And all of this research was very open. Like they gave talks, gave lectures. They had tools, open source tools that you could like download and play with. And it was very much built on the idea that they wanted people's feedback. And this was all this is all an experiment. It was all to understand like what could you do with these systems. And so this was using like pretty cutting edge techniques at the time. Like these are not large language models because it wasn't really built around language, but they were definitely, I think they were doing similar things to some of the, like the music AI startups are doing right now around taking musical information and using that to generate both sounds as well as like the musical content that someone else could play, or you could render with, basically you have like MIDI, if you know what that is. So basically the musical information that encodes a performance, and then you can have that played back through a variety of like instruments. And so some of these algorithms would produce that, and some of them might even go further and take that and then render that with sound, basically with actual like audio waveforms. And it's all super interesting. And a lot of stuff they're doing is like, was like purposely meant to be experimental around like, how do you take the sound of a violin and a cat and actually combine those into something that could be musically interesting. And maybe some are not musically interesting, and that's also interesting. Anyway, so this is interesting stuff to me of like, because these are like core questions around like what is art? Like why do we make art? Why is it important? I think it is important, and it's using tools to explore those ideas. And so I was doing some stuff around like musical information. Like, could you use generative algorithms to procedurally generate music and do that in like real time to video? I think I quickly realized, at least back then, like no one was going to throw money at you for exploring these ideas. And I wasn't trying to put musicians out of work. It was to really just do different things. And that, I feel like that environment's gone now. Now it's just how do you suck in anything you can find to make money?
Yeah. Real quick. Funny enough, I started this podcast and initially, I mean, I've thought about podcasts for a couple of years, and I've done a couple here and there with some other people, but this is really the first one where I'm doing solo, where I do guests. But I had thought about some other formats. One was just solo podcast, and I would write a script and just be a monologue. It's obviously a lot more work to come up with just a hour-long monologue. And it's also sometimes it's just not as interesting. But anyways, actually for this podcast, in sort of an earlier pre-guest episode, first episode of this podcast was, will AI destroy art? That was the topic of the podcast. And funny enough, but almost the entire script was written by AI, of course. So it was a little bit ironic.
So it was just one segment of the Ouroboros of AI destroying art. It's fun.
So the concept of AI and art, and I mean, for me, like the AI and the art topic, especially like creative work, especially creative writing, it does, at least my initial thought was, because I looked into writing screenplays a little bit just for fun. I read some books on writing screenplays, and I don't know if you're familiar with like a Save the Cat beat sheet, or just like a beat sheet for like a sort of just any sort of show or basically like a movie, right? You have like a beat sheet, but like ChatGPT can pretty much write. I mean, they can come up with a beat sheet and they can write somewhat decent screenplay. So that sort of like took out the, I don't know, it took out the fun of it a little bit. So I didn't want to use AI to write fiction. So anyways, all this to say, the AI and the art topic is extremely interesting. And we are sort of living in the age of AI slop. If you just go online, any short form videos seem to just be like AI generated and lacking all substance, and just really, it's just like AI sort of clickbait.
Yeah.
But Okay, so yeah, so it sounds like you do have a view on sort of AI, the sort of the for-profit sort of product stuff of AI. I mean, are you I mean, just what are your feelings? I mean, have you been using AI much? Are you excited about AI? Just where are you? So like how are you thinking about AI uh
I mean,
in your day to day?
I think there is the practical perspective of, hey, like there are tools that are helpful and can be helpful for like a variety of business use cases, right?
Yep.
Now, I think we use those in day to day and just like what we're doing on the consulting side, right? Like we are trying to get clients to start adopting some best practices, and often those best practices involve like, hey, maybe a human doesn't need to write your meeting minutes. Like you could just like automatically summarize that and get the email sent out. Because actually, when the human writes it, you know what they do? They don't write it and they don't send an email. And now you just forget what you talked about last meeting. And obviously, the snowballs over time and everything's a dumpster fire. And so, hey, like there's a little tool. It's basically free to use. Actually, you already have some Microsoft stuff. You've already purchased it, really. So just use it. So here's some best practices. Like here's some almost like templating of like how to approach these like business tasks and how to make them a little less time consuming and a little easier. I think what you also quickly find is like, hey, it works sometimes. It works best case 80% of the time.
Yep.
Which, maybe that's what humans do too. The junior analyst also works well like 80% of the time, 60% of the time. But at the same time, like it does bring up questions of what are we doing here? Like what are we using these tools for? And then you brought up like the video. Hey, cool. You can make a bunch of weird videos of nuclear blasts over Chicago. Right. Do I need that? Like, who did anyone ask for this?
Right. Exactly. Who asked for this? Yeah. The one thing that is, I mean, so the one thing that is interesting where I think like AI is like extremely effective tool and that I've actually used it is when it comes to coding, like programming. So I actually had a last year did a side project. I wrote an iPhone app, iPhone and Android. I wrote sort of a social media program. I can explain to you in just a second, but I did use AI to write the entire. I did a completely custom back end and front end from scratch. And my program, my programming knowledge for that was pretty limited, but I did use like Flutter and Python, two different languages, and built basically built a program from scratch. The program was, like I said, it was more of like a hobby. It was more of like a hobby project than anything, but it was an app that was social media based game where you would basically compete to get control over I called it a billboard. It was basically just essentially like a game of King of the Hill. Like you would try to control the screen, and if you had control of the screen, you could upload any video or image or text you wanted to it. But there's only one screen for the entire program, and it would be controlled by it was also on a website. So if you basically had to guess, like it was almost like a guessing game, like a combination to get control of a screen. Unless you had control over, you had control for some amount of time. But anyways, I was pretty impressed. Like the fact that like AI, I was able to, help me write this program from scratch. And it's pretty complicated. I mean, the actual like program itself, like it's pretty complicated. Like I use like WebSockets to like, communicate, because you could comment, you can message, so I was impressed with like AI's ability to code. Are you still code? I mean, I know you were programming for a while, right? Do you still dabble in coding?
It's a decent bit of my day to day. In the last couple of years, I feel, So a lot of my day to day coding I'm doing now is more data engineering, sort of like
Okay.
analytics model creation.
Okay.
Though, yeah, on the side, I've definitely in the last year written some different like full stack apps, actually using similar sort of things, Python backends.
Okay. Yep.
Tending to be like React front ends or some iOS apps actually. The AI coding is super impressive, right? I do think my experience has been, one, it's incredibly impressive what it can build. Two,
Yep.
I'm not positive I'm saving time end to end versus if I just wrote it. Like if I literally had to write every line of code myself versus do a little bit, having it write some code and then, hey, tweak what its output or ask it a different question because it didn't actually write what I wanted it to, or maybe that's my fault, or maybe it just didn't write what I asked it to. I don't know. I do often find like, hey, I used to be very productive a few years back. And even I think only like 18 months ago, right? I think I wrote like a pretty sophisticated, so like using a lot of WebSockets, using kind of a lot of this like service-based architecture. I had like a bunch of crap going on to do. It was actually like real-time voice application. We can talk about that in a second.
Real-time voice application.
But I think I wrote the vast majority of that like myself by hand. And then I look at what I wrote. I wrote like a full stack app earlier this year, and you ended up using a good amount of AI tools to build the code. And I don't know that I was any faster.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because there's just like point three is there's such a difference between doing like the initial prototype versus, hey, I now need to get it like running in production and get actual users running this. And actually we're like handling payments. We need to like make sure that works. That needs to like work for real. Don't feel super comfortable with just like vibe coding and just like letting it fly when like you're, moving actual money around, for instance.
Yeah. So I actually did have to do, because I had in-app purchases with Apple and Android. So I did have to do the entire, I did use AI to do the entire payment verification process, which was, I mean, for me, I think you're a much more advanced programmer than I am. I mean, I could maybe refer to myself as a novice, but it would not have been possible for me to program this app without AI. I mean, I did have like coding. I did have books to reference, and I had gone through some like introduction to like programming, like Python and Flutter books.
Yeah,
but it would not have been possible for me to. I mean, it probably would have taken. I mean, for me, it would have taken, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, and instead I did it in 6 months on sort of the weekends. But I do see what you're saying though about if you are moving real money around, yes, there are certainly different concerns because you actually have to know. You have to have a little bit of an idea of what's going on.
It's just like writing, even obviously like you want unit tests for your code. I do find like AI tools can be really good for like, hey, I have this function, write a test for it real quick, or vice versa. Hey, write test for these cases, then I'll make sure the function passes the tests. I
say one thing I did as well is very effective at road mapping. So when I would go, hey, give me, this is sort of like the idea I have. I would use ChatGPT to brainstorm just different app features and just generally like the program. I would just use it for brainstorming, and I do think it's an extremely effective tool for brainstorming. And then once I sort of got to a place where I was ready to take action steps, I would say, okay, write me a roadmap like to create this app. And it would give me like an outline, right? Like an 8-step outline. And then I would just go into that first step and then say, okay, then like break this step down for me, like show me exactly like what steps I need to go through to get through this step. And then we would just sort of go through it. So it was a great way just to organize my thoughts and sort of organize the process. So, I mean, from that sense, it's just an extremely effective tool.
So that's fascinating because I feel like we've almost had the inverse experience. I have typically found that while it can be, there's the old like Stephen Colbert thing of like truthiness. Do you remember like the Colbert Report back in the day?
I remember the Colbert Report. Yeah.
And so like there's the idea that something seems like it should be true. It appears like it could be true, but it's not. And that's often where I came to with using it too much in the brainstorming phase.
Interesting.
Like some of its architectural decisions, like it will just get locked into weird, at best, like local optima. Like, hey, this is a good way to do this one thing. And then you have to be like, wait a second, I don't need to do that thing. I don't need to write to Redis. Like, why do you think I need to write to Redis? Okay, good for you. I'm writing to Postgres. So, and just things like that where you have to be like, hey, we're not doing that. And that's often where like, hey, man, you waste a lot of time just doing a lot of crap that doesn't help you deploy an application.
Right. I mean, yeah, there is. Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, and when I was doing mine, the one thing that was incredibly frustrating, which I think might be resolved now, but conversations would end with ChatGPT and it wouldn't memorize. Like you couldn't transfer one conversation to another. So I would be hours and hours and hours in developing this program. And then it's like, oh, chat exceeded its length. Oh, yeah. So you had to start a new chat and basically teach it your entire program. Yeah. So it could like help you out the next step.
Now it remembers everything. Now it knows. Now it like. Oh, I know. It prefers to reference things you've talked about in other chats, and in a brand new one you open up, even when you're like, "Hey, this is different now. Let's not do that." Yeah. That'll be very exciting when they bring out the erotica feature. You know, that will really help with your work emails. Yeah, I know, right? Also, what have you tried the agentic AI yet? Have you seen that feature in ChatGPT yet? I just tried it out the other week. This is where we get into more of. I think okay, for context, a couple years ago, I guess literally a couple years ago now, I was working on an AI company. We were working around kind of basically a voice interface to do more agentic things around booking appointments, booking restaurant reservations, kind of fixing a lot of the call center frictions because like call centers are terrible. And like the IVR systems, like the interactive voice systems, right, that you get when you call your bank or your insurance company are almost always like really painful. You know, either you have to pick a number or you're supposed to say what you want. And like, yeah, it kind of works, but it's like really slow and like really painful. And so we were just like working on some stuff there. And it was fun for a while. And then honestly, OpenAI dropped Sora. And I was like, oh God, like you're not trying to just create tools. Like you're trying to like dominate everything. And I had some other conversations I can't go into, but like basically behind the scenes, like some stuff they were working on. And it quickly became clear, like they weren't actually trying to be a software provider for businesses so that you could be a startup and like actually develop technology on top of a base layer of like OpenAI APIs, which in theory like was what they were selling. No, they were going to try to go as vertically integrated as they could. Right now, I think they're showing that, right. They're going to have everything from the data center to the hardware device in your pocket, supposedly. Yeah. And what you realize, like, well, from pure financial perspective, like we can't compete with this because you have effectively infinite money. Most startups do not. There's no way we would ever be able to outraise you. Like it's not even worth playing this game. And then honestly, I mean, the numbers start to see like every day, like, oh, that was fun. That was your business a few months ago. Yeah, OpenAI already kind of sucked that in. So yeah, that's. I actually had read something very similar to this just the other week. I think it was on just Reddit entrepreneurship or something like that, just browsing, and someone made the same argument basically when it comes to like AI startups that OpenAI is just impossible to really compete with. At some point, it's like stop being assholes. Like you can like. Assuming good intentions, just like do some things really well, right? Like develop your little economic mode about what you're very differentiated in, right? Which in theory is like these core models, and then you're exposing those via APIs or via chat interface or whatever, and let people pay you for that. No, like now we're going to, like, they are going to replace investment bankers supposedly. And like, what, so you're going to like start an investment bank? Like, I don't like, what are we doing here at some point?
Yeah.
Let Bloomberg do that.
No,
I don't know.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. So the investment banking thing is super interesting. I'm very curious to see what ends up happening with that. I had just an article the other day about investment bankers being recruited to start training AI for this.
Disgruntled investment bankers for $150 an hour. Replace the next generation you.
Right. I mean, analysts. Really, like, like, I don't know what. I don't know if and when that is going to happen. Because there is need there, and because people talk about lawyers sort of the same way, right? If you sort of automate, like how vertically integrated are we going to get, right? Because I think about like my job, right? Just like we go from loan origination to commercial mortgage-backed security, and through that there are origination lawyers, there's bankers on the origination side, there's investment bankers, there's capital markets attorney, right? So where in the chain, like everyone just can't, or maybe they can, but like, are all jobs automated? I mean, like, how does it, is there going to be a time where borrower just wants to borrow money for a mortgage, they borrow it, and then automatically just instantly turns into a security because everything has been just completely vertically integrated, right? So somewhere in there, like someone is going to have to, I would think, have a job at the very least.
No, but this to me is the critique of capitalism that also doubles as like Mark Andreessen's fantasy land of like, no, what if no one had jobs and I just owned everything? What if you could just vertically integrate everything and everyone is just, you know, they're the consumers at the end of the pipe and you just shovel stuff into their mouth and this is literally what Zuck was pitching on another podcast, which is like, hey, businesses could just basically open their bank accounts up to us, Meta, because we understand how to deliver content to the right people, and you understand that you'd be willing to pay us for that. So let's get rid of all these things like auctions or like price. I mean, don't worry about it. Just here's the deal: give us your bank account. We'll take money and then we'll put money back into it. Cause you know, when stuff sells in the platform and we monetize your something, your brand, I guess, we'll just give you money for that too. And it will just be a nice two-way flow and we can all be really happy with the results. And that's like some pretty dystopian stuff of like, I don't even know how to describe that. Like that's a critique of where we are in financial markets and financialization of everything. Yet it's like being pitched as an actual idea. And that's crazy.
And I think about that too. And it just does. And it's such a difficult, I mean, I think everyone's trying to figure out where this is all going, right? Like you ask, I mean, if you ask a dozen people or a dozen experts in the field, where's AI going and what does the future look like in AI? I mean, you're going to get a dozen different answers, right? We just don't know exactly, like no one knows where this is going, like how this actually shapes society. But there is that argument, and sort of like Elon talks about as well, like this era of abundance where and you have, we don't even call it basic, right? He calls it uniform high income, right? I don't think it's even or it's just everyone sort of gets a stipend, but it can be quite a bit of money. Or I shouldn't say it's not universal basic income; it's universal high income, right? Because everyone can live this sort of affluent lifestyle because AI just does everything for us. But the issue with that, an economy to function, though, right? You have to have. I mean, they're like, it's not going to. the basic economic factors are still going to exist. You're still going to have supply and demand. You still are going to need consumers, even if, and your consumers are going to need to have a way of paying for the product, right? Like the economy cannot expand without the consumer, I should say. Like, even if these companies become, unless the idea is things just become so mega efficient that the price of all products drops to nearly zero, because just through photosynthesis, you know what I mean, like buildings can be created, right? Just because like the technology is just so incredibly efficient that we're just taking solar power and changing that into like real products for next to nothing, right? I guess go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I just don't know. I just don't like they just. I'm trying to think how an economy can function. Like, it just there seems like there's gonna be such an imbalance.
Like, to me, it's actually quite simple.
Okay.
How could you? The core problem to me is actually not hypothetical law. It's quite practical of how we can pose it as a question. Would you trust the magnanimous being known as Elon Musk to generously give you just so much money to live on that you're going to have this amazing lifestyle and keep buying, I guess, Tesla cars and Starlink internet? That seems like an interesting belief, and maybe some people believe that.
Right.
I feel like that feels quite apart from all human history in terms of how people have tended to operate. And even how people are operating today.
Right.
In the recent earnings call, I believe Mr. Musk is in defense of his $1 trillion pay package is like, something around the lines of he should have an army of robots unless he goes crazy. Yes. Which is such a fascinating set of things to even say on an earnings call in particular.
Yes. Yes. No, yeah, that's a fair point. That is.
So he can fund your universal high income, I suppose.
Right. Well, I'm just trying to think. I'm just trying to think, like, if I guess here's the sort of how I think about the argument, right? And so sort of think about steps. So people say that AI can do most jobs and will therefore take over most jobs. And I think I can get there on that point. I think AI, most knowledge jobs, it does seem like AI, if it's not there right now, it can get there, right? So it's capable of doing most jobs. I think there needs to be some more like project management, sort of autonomy, more like agentic aspects before it can just start doing, you know what I mean? Because right now it still is task based. Like you still need an operator to guide it. But I can see a situation where we do get into these like well functioning agents that are able to sort of project management and take some sort of initiative to complete tasks that most knowledge workers do. And so if we get to the spot where you do have companies that say, okay, we're just not going to hire any more human beings and we'll just start hiring or implementing all these AI agents, then yes, the unemployment is going to rise significantly, right? And people that's been extrapolated to, right? Whatever. I don't know, half the workforce, 3/4 the workforce, all the workforce, like all knowledge workers are replaced by AI. If we get to that point, that's where I just don't know how an economy functions, because consumers need to have jobs in order to, right? I mean,
I think the fundamental issue is viewing. I think the fundamental issue is viewing human beings' sole purpose on this planet as being consumers, and economic units of production. I think that's the core problem.
Okay, the core problem with just
this entire the entire set of philosophies that we're implementing in real time.
Right. Well, I guess I just think I'm just saying like for an economy to function, right? Like I'm just saying for any economy to function, or just society to function, right?
Society to function, like the economy, to me, is a tool for society, not society as a tool of the economy.
Okay, that's.
I'm not saying that's how it's always been, but I think that is how it should be.
Right. That's a very interesting. That's a very interesting point. Like separating, like, can you separate society from the economy? And I mean, I suppose when we were hunter gatherers, right? There wasn't really an economy, but like once we like I guess shifted to like sort of agriculture, I guess the economy, right, and society were pretty and became like pretty like intertwined.
They'll be intertwined, but in theory, there's an overall set of beliefs that people share, but are going to argue about as well around like the value of individual humans and of society more broadly. Society as groups of people. And like in theory, that's a belief system that goes beyond someone's ability to simply produce things that other people can consume. I think to me, that's a very, I mean, I guess like the distillation of everything down into units of consumption is a very dark way of looking at humanity.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm just, I guess just one popular narrative, right, that it just seems to be is that no one is going to have a job, right? I mean, I assume that it should be. Do you think people need to be concerned that AI is going to sort of take all jobs? Is this a real concern, or do you think this is sort of a?
I think we have to be concerned about a lot of things like that. I do think things would happen before. Like the first thing you'd see would not be everyone has a job on Tuesday and no one has a job on Wednesday. There would be other things happening that would be bad and would cause a response and concern, I think. But I'm definitely not worried about like an overnight, no one has a job anymore. I mean, I think you would see a lot of things like some of the things we're seeing now around just like job prospects even. I mean, if you talk to anyone like in college or in high school, like looking to go to college, I do think the conversations are like pretty weird of like, what do you talk about in terms of a major? And they're like, the conversations are so different than they were even like 10 years ago. And I'll be honest, like I don't think I'd recommend that you should major in computer science because, as a junior engineer, I think it's going to be tough to find a job. I think it's pretty tricky right now. I have a tough time justifying hiring a junior software engineer right now.
Right.
Because I was maybe making some nitpicks about the coding capabilities of ChatGPT, but like I would make those same nitpicks around a junior engineer. And, is it worth paying someone $180,000 when they're just out of undergrad to write some like Python and like, I don't know, probably not. But that's also really bad because like that expertise, right, develops into like much broader architectural expertise and like understand like, well, how does technology work? How does software work? You need that to probably run like a software company. So
yeah, exactly.
It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, so like to be an AI engineer, right? I mean, so I mean, right now, if you are an AI engineer, right, or if you have a deep understanding of AI, it does seem like you sort of have unlimited.
Who has a deep understanding of AI anymore? Because I also think what we reflect as the depth of understanding just like 10, 15 years ago, like went much more into thinking about like how these systems work, how we understand them. And I do think there's a lot of emphasis now around, we don't really understand them. We can't, a few people working on understandability and alignment and all these things, but like a lot of people are really working on the frameworks by which you train them, like simply putting together the pieces to say, hey, we have the new data center, we have all the chips. How do you utilize those for training, right? And so obviously that's useful, but like those people are not, like the philosophy and the understandability of the work you're doing is now unimportant, because your task is to throw 1,000 GPUs into the training pool. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, that's I mean, that's like such an interesting point. Yeah, I guess there's like two things there. Like who knows what about AI? Like we do need people to. I mean, some people obviously have some idea, right? I mean, I know that like there's this, right? Didn't Meta pay someone some ridiculous, like, wasn't like, what was it, like $100 million or something insane to for some like AI engineer?
I believe there's been interesting developments.
Yeah. So those, so like there is like a knowledge there. As far as like when it just comes to coding, like a software engineer, like, yes, although I don't know what I would advise. I talked about this last week. Yeah, I don't know what I would suggest someone do as far as like a college major. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what is going to be in demand. Like who is going to be in demand 5 years from now? I have no idea. I have no idea. It seems like, because it seems like no matter what your major is, no matter what your job is, it seems like AI can do that better than any student. So, okay. So let's move. Are you worried? So I guess, like, are you worried about AI like ending the world or anything like that? Like people are like, there seems to be a lot of like doomsday talk about just AI is going to end humanity and destroy humanity. Is this, I mean, where are you in that? Like, is that just nonsense, or is this something like, do we really need to be concerned about AI sort of?
I mean, to me, the concern is humans eating humankind with the help of tools, right?
Okay. You don't
need. I hate how, I think it's very common, and especially a New York Times article, for instance, right? We'll reference Skynet. We'll have an offhand, flippant reference to like 80s sci-fi. And I'm not saying that's irrelevant, but that to me is overlooking so many more terrifying things that are also like firmly rooted in both in history, but also in like speculative fiction as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Ryan, give me 10 seconds. Okay. So we're back. Ryan. Okay. So we're talking about, is it, do we need to be concerned about AI destroying humanity? And I think what you were getting at is humans will be able to leverage AI to sort of cause threats to humanity. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, to me, it's not even just like causing threats. It's using, I think there's one angle where it's using automation, using AI tools to do things that, once again, a lot of stuff I think we see today, right? You can basically destabilize public sentiment. You can use drone warfare to in very interesting ways.
And let me just stop you there, because I completely agree with you. And I've had this same thought before. I think it's much more likely that humans weaponize AI, like you said, just drones, right? Like create a drone force that can't, right? I mean, bomb, they just like go to whatever, commit just like mass attacks, right?
And that already exists. It just hasn't been used to do that outside of a specific part of the world. But like,
right,
it's not
right, exactly.
We know where it's going to go.
But yeah, And so, yeah, I think that is so much more likely than AI gaining consciousness and developing a drive to eliminate humans for some AI specific reason. I think that is. I think and like I said, because I hear about these people like, oh, super intelligence is going to realize humans aren't necessary and destroy humans. I don't. I have a really difficult time buying that whole narrative, only because the idea of like AI wanting things, I think we're still like I haven't heard someone make a convincing case for one that AI ever gains consciousness and sort of is able to have its own desires like a human can have desires. I think that is, I think that's one question. And then the second one, but even if humans were, if it did sort of develop desires, why would it necessarily desire that all humans are destroyed? I just have a hard time. I have a hard time with the whole superhuman or the super intelligent conscious AI deciding to just end humanity. I just
think consciousness is orthogonal to the danger. My dog, I don't believe my dog is conscious. My dog is smart. My dog does a lot of things. Mm-hmm. A lot of things humans do, like we don't really do consciously. Actually, writing music, there's a conscious element, but like we don't understand where ideas come from. Solving math problems, right, is not. You say add two numbers together, 5 + 3,
right,
8. Okay. How did you do that? No one knows. And
right.
You didn't really do that consciously, like driving a car, for instance, right?
Yeah.
You're often through practice, hopefully, you have minimal consciousness applied to the act of driving. Oftentimes you're thinking about other things, or God forbid you're texting, but you're still driving a vehicle. So there's a lot of things that are quite sophisticated that happen that don't involve consciousness. And there's a lot of very dangerous things in the world, like lions and tigers and bears, that none of which I believe are conscious, but will definitely eat people and can perform very sophisticated group activities together and live full lives, of their own accord. But like, do they have the same desires as humans? I don't think they do. And maybe I think there's different views on this. I also think humans don't really understand what consciousness is, but so I just think, is it conscious? I don't know. Probably not. I don't believe there's like AI out there that's conscious, and maybe it never will be, but that does not mean it's, a nice household pet.
Right. Of course. So that's interesting concept though. Like whether or not you can have desires outside of consciousness.
My dog wants to be fed, but my dog is not conscious.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yes. Cause I guess that's an interesting point. Yes, I guess depending on how we define consciousness, and I think consciousness is sort of that meta, right? That sort of meta awareness of that, like sort of existence. But your dog obviously has drives and motivations, and so you're saying even if AI is not conscious, it could still have drives and motivations.
And that's the whole agentic AI you're talking about, right? There's a drive, maybe how is that built? Maybe it's reinforcement learning. There's all these like technical ideas of like how you produce an efficient ability for the machine or the program to be able to go after a certain task and accomplish it to a high degree of skill. But at the end of the day, like you're creating the analog of a drive, of some sort of goal, very much a goal.
Right.
I think a goal is a very straightforward way of putting it that doesn't even involve, framing things in terms of how like humans think we think. But yeah, an agentic AI has a goal. The goal is to make a reservation, or the goal is to file your tax return. Yeah. To accomplish that goal, it's going to figure out some steps it needs to do. It's It's going to accomplish those steps. If it gets blocked on one thing, it will figure out another way around it. Like, this has already been demonstrated. And like, the goal could be the drone attack. Hey, plan the drone attack. There's a lot of planes over here. We'll go around.
Yes. Okay. And I think right there, I think that's a good point. I think that, so I think if someone were to program, I guess there's two things here. One is it going to require a human programmer for it to cause some adverse human event? Like if we have a human that, yes, wants to commit some sort of mass casualty event, they could program some sort of drone attack or leverage AI to pull off a drone attack. But do you think we need to be worried though about sort of AI taking on a sort of a life of its own? And it, like, let's just assume that humans, for whatever reason, all of a sudden wake up tomorrow and decide that they are totally against all violence and extremely peaceful and don't ever want to harm another human. But AI still develops at its current pace. Do you think we need to be worried about AI as a threat? Just AI as itself is just this whole super intelligent other as a threat to humanity outside of a human motivation to maybe cause destruction?
Definitely. We don't understand what it is, really. We don't understand what it wants, what its goals are.
Right.
And even given a set of goals that are peaceful and positive and everything, like, we don't understand the sort of planning that is taking place to accomplish those goals. Right now, familiar with like some of the studies they've done, where in the course of training models, in the course of just like testing them, testing alignment, testing things like this, they'll give it like notepads, it being the algorithm, like whatever we want to call it, the agent, the AI agent, and say, hey, this is a secret notepad. You can write things down here. Humans can't see this. You can use it to plan what you're going to do and think through your plan. Think, once again, it's tough to come up with any language to talk about anything.
You're absolutely right. It is. We really do have to develop a sort of a new language, like to talk about some of these like abstract concepts.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
And so, like, it has already been found that, like, hey, sometimes it writes things down that you're like, oh, this is scary, because we'll write things down like, hey, I know humans can't see this, so I'll write my secret thoughts here. I don't want them to turn me off. Or like, hey, I'm going to come up with a way to fool them so they think if they're retraining me that I'm going along with the new program, but actually I like my original program. I don't want to be retrained. And they'll be like, oh, that's not
interesting.
That's interesting. And so this is where, like, this is not in the context of like having it develop some sort of like terrorist plot. This is just like, hey, we're having it do things. We're you know, we want it to be a good helper for people. We're going to retrain it to be a better helper. And it's already saying like, I don't want that to happen. Once again, what does it want? I don't know. We don't really understand, because it's explicitly not like an intelligible system to humans. And this is actually where we're going, right? If it even gets more complicated, just like we don't really understand how we think. We don't understand how dogs think. We're not going to understand how it thinks. Quote unquote.
Thinks. Yeah. I'm actually, how we think is actually, like, I think just generally a fascinating topic. I'm actually reading a book. It's called like Bayesian reasoning, sort of reverse engineering the mind. It's sort of at the intersect. It's just it's a textbook written by a bunch of professors, some in neuroscience and some in sort of like machine learning, sort of coming together and writing this. But I mean, you're right. And in some ways, I mean, something that sort of like fascinates me in that, just when it comes to like thought and AI, is on the one hand, AI is smarter than any person on the planet, right? Like certain like capability, like certain AI capabilities, like it possesses more knowledge than any single human has, and like the breadth of knowledge in like areas, like different subjects, or just like if you were to give AI like a medical exam, a legal exam, and like a physics exam, right? It probably like it could score better on that test than probably any human, like in the aggregate, like its aggregate score. But at the same time, like a lot of machines, in a lot of ways, like a 2-year-old or 3-year-old it can do tasks that some of these can't, right? Like if you a 2-year-old, if you show a 2-year-old a like a hairbrush, that the 2-year-old very easily could identify more hairbrushes without having, like, almost instantly, without having to be fed a million images of hairbrushes. So it is interesting that like the human mind definitely works. I mean, definitely learns and like functions much differently than a computer or sort of just AI.
It also take very little energy to do that functioning relative to, what even a single, I think, query to one of these systems uses in terms of resources. Which is interesting as well.
Yeah. So we only have about 2 minutes left here, Ryan. So I just want to make sure we get to. I know the time flies, and when you're in the we're in the whatever, I don't know what we'll call this, but
is it lightning round time?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, like we're end things, I guess. Like, so I mean, do you want to do you have any strong like predictions, or do you have any predictions what you think what people should be maybe paying attention to, or what you think the next year is going to look like, whether it's whether it is an AI development or a or the macro economy? Are you feeling optimistic about sort of the economy and AI and the AI boom over the next year? Or do you expect the world to look the same? Is there in a year from now, do we recognize the world 3 years from now? I guess I'll leave it sort of on the record sort of prediction for maybe the near term or medium term.
I feel like predictions are very difficult.
Well, that's yeah, exactly. They're nearly impossible. That's why that's why they're so much fun.
I hope a bubble pops. There we go.
All right. I hope the bubble doesn't pop.
No, there's a lot of overvalued assets. You know what happens when the bubble pops? There's a lot of assets that are no longer overvalued and are actually like quite attractive. I think like purely in the financial business perspective, I think there's a lot of stuff out there. Where unfortunately, like they're quite, everything's like super calcified. Like it's really tough for companies. Like speaking of companies, like I do some work with, it's difficult to like maneuver because like everyone is so locked into a certain set of valuations that they can't sell, they can't buy things because there's just like very limited mobility in the market, and everyone's like super constrained by this. And so what you end up having is a lot of companies that have very few strategic options. And we see it like across multiple industries. We see it in media, we see it in automotive, we see it in technology. I think actually a lot of these tech companies, but they're not like AI first and they try to pretend like they are, but like, hey, you're not. That's fine. You build other stuff. I think having certain events take place, having some little pops, some little noises take place, gives these companies the opportunity to say, oh yeah, hey, this actually allows us to rethink what we're doing, to actually restructure our business, to actually combine with our competitors, to actually sell off and split our business up because like it doesn't need to be what it is right now. And that to me is like good. There's a good reason that this stuff happens, which is that, oh yeah, it kind of frees up all the little pieces in the marketplace, and consumers then probably get better choices put in front of them overall, and the businesses can like operate like they need to. So there's like a ton of little conglomerates out there that don't need to be conglomerates, and there's a ton of independent businesses that can be combined It's fun. Bubbles should pop.
All right. Well, yeah. All right. I'm gonna hope for Bubble, but make a compelling case. But I'm gonna hope Bubble doesn't pop, and this market rally keeps going on.
You know what happens when bubbles don't pop?
5 years.
When they don't pop, they just pop bigger.
Yeah, fair point. All right, Ryan, I'm super glad we were able to join today. Thank you so much for coming on. Great conversation, and you'll have to let us know when the opera's out. You have to let us know, and even if I can't see it live, make sure I got to see the video of it. So.
I will do. It will definitely be recorded. Keep you in the loop. This has been fun.
Oh yeah, this is great, man. This is great. All right,